All right, so welcome in everyone. We're going to take a look at what's happening with the SEC and Gary Gensler today, and whether or not Gensler can make it through this cycle. We're going to see all that good stuff. There's a lot here, I think, that will help line you guys up in terms of understanding what maybe the future of crypto is. It's going to be a good one. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Let's get into it today. I want to, of course, thank our sponsors, and that is Kraken. If you're looking at... They should be our sponsors. We got to show them some love. I mean, these guys are taking some heat over here. But listen, maybe not being able to stake over there, but you can buy Bitcoin and crypto at Kraken and 185 other cryptocurrencies. So make sure and check them out. Use our link because it is the way that we work with them. And, I don't know. If you guys are using various, remember, as always, self-custody, what we coach the most, but you have to eventually make those trades. Kraken might be the spot for you. All right, so let's get into it today. Before we get started, though, I'm going to try to get the guys to give me a feed up here, so I'll make sure I'm getting that up there. Perfecto. All right, so let's get started today and roll in to what Watcher Guru was talking. This, of course, was talking about the Kraken shutting down their staking. We broke this yesterday pretty early, right before the 2 o'clock meeting, which then resulted in the settlement that Kraken... Who knows what was going on behind closed doors here with the SEC? Kraken, not a huge company. My guess is they were basically bending the knee to the SEC because of the litigation costs, and most likely there was a lot of trading back and forth on scenarios where the SEC would not cause more problems, even though I don't trust these guys as far as I can throw them. So we'll see if this starts to play into it. But it didn't set well with a lot of people, and we'll get into some of that, even within the SEC itself. But more importantly, how this may line out for Gary Gensler himself, especially as Congress starts to put a little pressure on him. I want to show a video here and just how ludicrous Gensler's office hours videos are. And you got to watch this. Let me play this clip.
With our securities laws. That's S-T-A-K-E, not S-T-E-A-K. In the crypto markets, there are various ways to validate data stored on crypto ledgers called blockchains. And one of these ways is called staking. Investors lock up their tokens in escrow and help validate the next block of data. Some stakers are then rewarded with new tokens. Staking, though, can be complicated and time-consuming and can take big upfront commitments of tokens. There's also the risk that you won't.
All right, so the point being here, guys, if you're new to crypto, I don't even think you would need to be handheld like that. First of all, I feel like it's a bit of a diss to the retail investor in general. And I think that's the biggest thing here is that I'm not sure who he's even talking to, in the sense of people that are looking at crypto, the crypto curious, even people that maybe not even interested in crypto. If anything, he's just creating this scare tactic that basically pushes away the normies that are maybe not even looking at crypto right now, because I think anybody that's even considering a crypto buy is in a position where they've done a lot of research. They've definitely dove into shows like ours or others that have already given them a lot of information and education that helps them kind of go down their own crypto journey. So this, I just don't see it as a tool set for the SEC. They should be real educators. And this just feels like it's just such a patronizing effort. Here's the SEC Commissioner Peirce. Hester Peirce, she basically says it's not a fair way of regulating. This is Crypto Mom. We've referred to her many times on the show. A couple of things here. Her dissent yesterday with the crackdown, calling such actions as a non-efficient and fair way of regulating an emerging market like ours, and that the SEC again chose to speak through an enforcement plan, purporting that it make clear that marketplaces staking as a service provider must register with provide full and fair disclosure. Peirce also notes the SEC's action against Kraken enjoins it from ever offering a staking service in the United States, meaning they've given it up. Even at some point where this might be legal, I'm not even sure they could reclaim it. So this was a big slide on Kraken. So I feel for companies like that, because really they just have pushed them to kind of a point of no return. Here is Peirce talking a little bit about this very issue. Let me play this clip from her.
Third disclaimer is that although many of the early Bitcoin exchange traded product denials were issued by the staff under authority delegated from the Commission, my criticism about these denials and about other policy decisions are leveled at the Commission and not at the staff. The staff is appropriately following the lead that it's getting from the Commission, but the Commission has not been leading well. The Commission's resistance to a spot Bitcoin ETP is becoming almost legendary. When is the Commission going to approve a Bitcoin ETP is the most common question that I've gotten in my entire tenure at the SEC.
All right, so you can kind of see her position has been pretty strong. Further into this, this was on another clip here where she's talking further, and it actually is in reference to the response.
Those are the kinds of things people want to understand. What's your plan to getting toward a decentralized status? Those are the things people want to know. And I think we could craft some kind of an exemption. I've suggested crafting a safe harbor that would get some of that information to people and make sure that that information is backed up by our anti-fraud rules under the securities laws.
I know.
So she's getting at the point that there is a potential vehicle here to assist a lot of the crypto companies that are already, kind of in these, dicey waters with the SEC, much like what Kraken fell into. So I think the scenario is that we have regulators out there that definitely are in the right position. And she goes really hard at Gensler himself. Listen to this clip. This is an interesting one right here.
Read you something. This is Hester Peirce, someone you know well. He's a Republican commissioner of the SEC. And
great respect for my fellow commissioner.
He disagreed with your decision.
She
did. I'm sorry. She disagreed with the decision. Let me just read you something. Using enforcement actions to tell people what the law is in an emerging industry is not an efficient or fair way of regulating, she says. Moreover, staking services are not uniform, so one-off enforcement actions and cookie-cutter analysis does not cut it. A paternalistic and lazy regulator settles on a solution like this one in this settlement. What is your reaction?
Just basically calling him what he is, lazy and just going for the low-hanging fruit. And again, I think this is a power grab by obviously a scenario that plays out into maybe trying to litigate and possibly look at regulating crypto further into the cycles as we see more in this. But more importantly, I think this really is just a play from the SEC based on the deals and the under the table deals that of course Gensler is doing. And he's doing them, guys. And we already know his connection with FTX and all of that. I think this is just another play. It's just a matter of time before we see some movement here, I think, on this guy. This was further into, now just for understanding's sake, is that there are some tracks to going through the SEC. We had to go back all the way to 2019 to pull this data, but this was the SEC gives, this was a UNOW, I'm not even sure they're around anymore, but it's an Ethereum token called Props, and they gave them a Reg A approval. Now, if you guys know what a Regulation A or a Regulation D is, basically it's you being able to go out and raise capital. The difference is private capital versus public capital, a public investor, accredited or not accredited. The point being is that there are some tracks that could occur here. What I don't understand is when some of these things get rolling, why we don't see companies taking those avenues if in fact there is a way. Now, there is no guarantee that the SEC will grant, the Regulation A or Reg D or any of those scenarios that play into the certifications from the SEC for you to be able to act and sell a security or sell something that might be potentially a security when there are no rules that guide around the Howey test. So I think that's the kind of the situation that we're up against, is there's so much kind of gray area here, and the SEC just is not willing to do the work to clarify that gray area and start locking this up. Now, if you look at the, just the roster here, it's not a band of many. It's, it's a pretty straightforward group. Each one of these commissioners, kind of handle a certain area. There, of course, is Hester Peirce, the one that's pretty much breaking rank right now under Mr. Gensler, the chair. And I think we are seeing a little bit of a jockeying for position for potentially either one taking over as a chair, or at least putting enough pressure on the chair to maybe go into a new direction. Remember, she's a Republican chair, or excuse me, a Republican commissioner. Obviously, a lot of politics usually play into this because this starts to go into the scenarios of these PACs, who's the money behind it, which are typically Wall Street and the banks, where I know and feel like a lot of these things are going. Now, just remember that who wins on this is really, projects like Lido. And Lido, if you're not familiar with it, it is a staking tool, much just like Rocket Pool and others that are out there. But Lido is pretty much a full-blown platform for Ethereum. Obviously, they do Solana. You can get Polygon in there, and you can do Polkadot and Kusama even. Pretty straightforward, easy to get into. I think this just pushes more and more people to decentralized, which is an interesting angle, because if this kind of scenario continues to go forward with these regulatory pushes by enforcement, then at some point we're going to see this leap toward decentralized platforms, but more importantly, you're going to see a lot of innovation start to find their way offshore. Further into it, I mean, if you look at just Lido, this right here is decentralized as it can be. These are the validators right here. So if you don't, you've got the capability of really seeing the power of why this has been and will continue to be one of the biggest opportunities out there, I think, in terms of staking. And if you guys are not looking at staking, go ahead and read a little bit more about Lido's V2. It's the next step in decentralization. There's a few things that they go in. The main focal points on the upgrade is the staking router, new molecular architecture. Anyone can develop on-ramps, which is going to make it even more robust. So node operators ranging from solo stakers to DAOs and distributed validator technologies, clusters. All of that will be able to create a much more and bigger validator system. So withdrawals on Lido and Ethereum protocol will upgrade to staked ETH holders to withdraw from Lido on a 1-to-1 ratio. So again, back to another benefit of things like that. And listen, if you guys are not, we drop a lot of additional content over on our Diamond Circle. And if you go over there, just like we did this video yesterday, but we also drop our power index stuff for you guys that are members over there, so you can see a lot of our additional stuff. The reason I bring that up is we did a full piece on this right here, Rocket Pool and Lido, and did a full analysis on this for you guys. All of this is over there on the Diamond Circle. So just go over there to pbn3.substack and you'll find it. Sign up there. It's an easy place to get involved. Now let's go over here to Charles Hoskinson, who of course had an interesting statement. I don't often agree with Charles, but today I might agree with what he has to say. Listen in.
Obviously, there's going to be a national discussion now about these things, especially now that Kraken and others are getting involved. It does not appear that there's any attempt to say, oh, well, staking mechanics somehow now make the underlying asset a security. You'll probably see a lot of FUD over Twitter, Reddit, and other places saying, oh, well, if staking is a security, that must mean the underlying asset is. So Ether is now a security, or ADA is now a security. Let's be very clear. You can take wheat, which is a commodity, or gold, a commodity, and put it into some sort of package or structuring where that package is a security, or that activity that you're doing with it is regulated. But that doesn't make wheat or gold a security. So you don't have that transitivity there where what you do.
All right, so I agree with Charles. He gives a good explanation there of exactly how securities are organized and really kind of the structure here, which in essence, if this was really fought in a court of law, much like what's happening with Ripple, it's likely that Kraken would have won. But again, taking on the SEC, not an easy task. So I think the question is who does take on the SEC? And I think this is where it's going to be rolling to. We'll talk a little bit further about this, of why all this is happening. Interest rates are shooting up, so why is your savings account still paying at like 1.13? And this is interesting because if you look at some of the data here, there's a few points that kind of go into the aspect of where banks are paying interest versus what we see in terms of a lot of other entities out there. If you just think about Robinhood paying, I think they're 4.15 right now. Discover. There's many entities and even online banks now that are going into that level. And that, to me, is one of the biggest reasons why we're continuing to see that. And if you look at just the FDIC data here on the general aspect of the unbanked, let me show you a couple of data points here. This is an estimated 4.5% of U.S. households, approximately almost 6 million, unbanked in 2021. That's not the end of it. Don't trust banks, second most cited reason for not having an account. We're going to probably see this go up. This was in 2021 at 13%. Avoiding banks giving more privacy, third most cited reason at almost 10%. The other thing is that you have this massive overuse of additional services out there, like these money services. So you got Western Union, MoneyGram, etc. All these are high cost money transfer services. That's another 7%. Now you think about that and just the 370 million people that are in the United States, and then you look at all of these unbanked people that are using these money services, this opens up the opportunity for what's happening in crypto. And I think this is going to be just another big onboarding opportunity for where all of this is going. And again, this kind of just hits on it again. Ether liquid staking platforms will benefit, obviously, with the SEC actions because they're likely to fail around the DeFi component. DeFi is just too global. It's just too decentralized for the SEC or anyone, for that matter, to really try to put, shackles on it. And some of the things that are here within this article they talk about. It says on-chain data, sure, Kraken is one of the largest validators operating a big staking pool. Now that's probably going to go to Lido. But the SEC seems to be concerned about the fund flow. Either deposited into Kraken intended on staking, really going to staking, or is it being lent out? Liquid staking protocols such as Lido and Rocket Pool, we talk about this, wouldn't have the same problem. One could track in or out of their wallet via the pool and the block explorer or other chain monitoring tools. So you don't really have that. So again, this is where Lido, Rocket Pool, and just staking in general continues to win. All of that is, though, being pushed into a decentralized environment, which to me is the worst thing for the SEC, because if we continue to see more DeFi tool sets, then I think the big question is where do they start putting the pressures on and kind of the clamps on the industry? It's most likely going to come to the gatekeepers, which could get down to the wallets. So we need to be cautious and aware of that. Here's Gabriel Shapiro that basically said validation as a service is not like an earn program, not like taking capital into a business or a fund. It's a ministerial tech service. So again, many people that understand how the legal ramifications go within the SEC, what they have control over, and what their true guidance mission is to protect the securities market from retail investment, not to go out and essentially kind of create all of this legislative pseudo wins. I think this is really just a quick win for Gensler. In some way, for his Democrat friends and his bank and Wall Street friends to show that they're getting something done to keep the crypto dogs at bay, because essentially we are talking about the barbarians being at the gate, and it's in a big position for sure. Further into this, let's get into another piece of this. This is who would be next? Who would be the targets for the next potential hit? A couple of things here. Could they target Coinbase? That's one analysis that kind of plays into it. We showed Brian, and his tweet yesterday about this whole issue with what was happening with Kraken. Let me zoom in on this. Obviously, this was the point that he was getting at. More exchanges and stablecoin issuers will receive Wells notices in the coming days and weeks. So this is likely coming faster than what I think a lot of people, Coinbase most likely will be one of the next ones. Also, don't forget, New York Department of Financial Services is also investigating Paxos. So another scenario that plays into this. Another name Andrew learned from his anonymous sources in the circle. This issue is the second largest stablecoin crypto market. Again, Paxos has been one of those that I think a lot of people are and have been concerned because of the amount of stablecoin deposits that are happening away from traditional banks. Just like, we're going to see a lot more action within BUSD. I think, when you think about Binance and how strong BUSD is, for sure. So This gets very complicated, but again, it's all a situation of following the money. Here was a tweet right here from Rep. Bill Heisinga. Let me zoom in on this. There's a couple of things here. It says, since Gary Gensler won't abide by his own policies to come in and talk, the House GOP will hold him accountable today as promised. Now, whether or not they get this done, but the point is that they have now issued a statement. This came right here on Feb 10. And they're basically saying, listen, you're running amok, and we're going to put you and check you. Now, this could be a scenario where they're trying to, and what they're recommending here is they're trying to basically grab a bunch of data around the FTX communications with the SEC and specifically Gensler. So they're after it, and you've got, of course, the typical guys have been there before. Patrick McHenry, which is a big crypto, I think to a certain extent, he's more pro-innovation, but also Bill Heisinga, chairman of the subcommittee on the Oversight and Investigations. Again, this will get back to all records right there. You'll notice it, let me kind of zoom in on that for you guys a little bit. All records and communication between and among any employees in the SEC's Division of Enforcement, including but not limited to Grewal, for the period of November 2nd through 9th, all again from Sam Bankman-Fried. So again, they're trying to pin them to the cross, I think, or at least have a way in which maybe there is an exit for Mr. Gensler. Now, granted, we don't know who the next chair would be. Could be Peirce, could be someone completely different. Remember that we do at least have a bipartisan, political landscape right now to an extent. Though I have a feeling, remember, 2024 just around the corner. Likelihood is if there is a Republican or a GOP candidate that goes into the White House, the likelihood of Gensler holding this through his full term is not going to happen. So that's kind of where we're going. We'll go over to a poll. I'd love to get you guys' feedback. We'll probably drop into the charts here in a minute as well. Will Gary Gensler get fired or forced out to resign early? Yes, 68%. So I think you guys are in the same boat. I hate it when everybody thinks like what I'm thinking, which is, it's just going to be one of those things. Couple of questions. Let's get in here. Let's see. Andrew says companies just need to declare what they will do with staked coins, and that's really what he said. Yes, and maybe that could be if there was a vehicle in which you could do that. The process. Remember, this is a scenario that there isn't a lock step. Here's process 1, 2, 3. If you submit an IPO or you're going into a Reg A or any of those, there is a very clear path in which you have to do it. And if you jump through all the hoops, as long as there's not any, shenanigans within your accounting and within your offering, you're pretty well, I'm assuming that you're going to get that request. Now, not that that is necessarily the case, because there's many others that have not been able to get those requests. I've seen many companies look at IPO offerings. You can go back into a ton here just recently, as well as Reg A's that have also failed of trying to get those done. So, and it also costs a lot of money to get that done from a legal standpoint. Not that that's a deterrent, but it should be considered. Andre Moscow says, do you think the Bitcoin price go under 20K? I do not think that we are going to see it drop there anytime soon, guys. Let me go over here to the chart real quick, Bitcoin. All right, so seems like to have bounced around that 21.5 range. 21.5 was that little dip right there. I don't know, how many of you guys are buying this right here with this fall off? I mean, we are seeing some sideways action on Bitcoin right now on sentiment. It did take a big drop yesterday, but it pretty much kind of just came to a stop. I mean, we haven't seen it going up dramatically, but it has not continued to fall. So I'm probably going to actually take a look at Bitcoin real hard for maybe another dollar cost average coming in. We do have Jeff Ross coming in next week. We also have Darius Dale, I hope, that's going to be on the show. And we're going to talk about these macro efforts that will get into Bitcoin and ETH pricing over the next few weeks, because I have a feeling we could be scooping back down into another opportunity here for some interesting action on Bitcoin. All right, let's take a look. Let's. All right. So Andy says, total ruined my Gala pump. Hey, listen, guys, you got to take profits. This is something we talk about all the time. if you look at, let's go look at Avalanche real quick. I mean, come on, guys. There was so many opportunities to grab your profits, even in this zone right here on this little additional pump that was back up to almost 21 bucks. That would have been another exit, which is we've been in and out of Avalanche. But again, if you're believing that Avalanche is going to do something, don't be too scared, because this is right there at a resistance level around 18 bucks. That's not necessarily a huge drop. This might be another entry opportunity. I'm going to do a podcast. We do video feeds on analysis over on the Diamond Circle, where you can get in on the CPI program on Substack. We do those all the time over there, so you can go check those out. We'll have one going up this weekend where I'll be analyzing a lot of different altcoins and where some positions might be going. That is on the Diamond Circle. It probably will not be here on YouTube. Will Binance US be next? Most likely, I think they're all going to get these Wells documents. So you're going to see Coinbase, Binance, anybody that's offering this. AMP token and Flexa run on staking provide liquidity. However, you can unstake your tokens anytime. Sounds like AMP staking is safe, according to Gensler's, yes, according to his video, even though I don't know that anybody's safe from Gensler. This was a good one right here, not me. Be careful what you wish for. I would agree with that, because you don't necessarily know what could come out of the crannies of the swamp to roll into the chair position at the SEC. Even though I do not think that it could, I feel like it can't be worse. I mean, I guess there is always there can be worse, but this guy is pretty bad. More importantly, the thing that concerns me about this guy is his ties to Wall Street. I mean, remember, this guy was pro-crypto in his days at MIT. And his ties to Wall Street, the banking entities, that I think is the biggest issue overall. Everybody wants to take a look at XRP. I will say this, XRP sentiment has been falling, guys. So we are not looking at entering any positions on XRP right now. We anticipate some additional fall on XRP, not necessarily knowing why. I think there's some fatigue in the market overall for where XRP is going. The one that actually has been holding up is Hedera. Let me jump over to HBAR. This was the one that we did a big video on this last week, and then I did a big analysis on this over on the Diamond Circle in our mastermind group. And you can see this got that correction, and this almost is an unfazed move right here, where Hedera is trading it back up to 7 cents. And I'm anticipating to see more upward trend on Hedera based on, again, not price analysis, based on what we're seeing on sentiment data. We don't look at TA, we look at sentiment data and research, and then look at what's happening from a fundamental standpoint for those projects. That's how we measure what we do here. But again, if you look at Hedera over just the short period of time, this was on our portfolio for January 6th. You can kind of see the movement right here. Pretty amazing. Even if you go back here to January 6th, that Friday, right there, setting on 100% gain. So if you guys were in that, kudos to you. Take some profits right now and then look at a hold. That's what I do, is work my way out of a position if I'm not looking at long term, and then waiting for a potential entry point. However, Hedera, I don't know if it has one coming back. Anyway, don't forget, get in the Diamond Circle. It's really easy and it's free. Just join, use the link below. Also, if you guys want to reach me, it's out there on Twitter, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechBat.